Hello, YouTube fam. How y'all doing? It's your Uncle Tim. This is Uncle Tim Rants and Reviews, the channel where I rant and I review. I'm your host, Uncle Tim. Fam, I was asked when I was about to sell my collection, what made the deal fall through? What made the deal fall through? In the beginning, I said what was off limits. Right off the bat. Some things I do have sentimental value. Some things have been with me for a minute. Some things were there, when I was starting over, like when I sold stuff in the beginning, I didn't sell everything. I kept a few pieces because, they were like just something that I just held dear, from the childhood, lit pieces, it was just stuff. But man, like I said, then there was a number that was agreed upon. I didn't try to change the number. I didn't try to do anything. I told him what I had in storage. He bought some of the stuff in storage in the beginning. That was straight off the bat. That's what led to me talking about what I have now. Some stuff that I was actually saying in this deal was off limits was some of the stuff that the people donated to the channel. Like Sanchi and Tracy, and it's a few other people that actually sent stuff to this channel. I explained that stuff is off limits because, man, it's a honor to receive something from someone that didn't have to send you anything. And man, I really hold those items dear. Dude, just being honest, man. Telling somebody what's off limits, it seemed like it make them want it even more. He was asking me was the Neo Geo off limits. I said, no. I told him all the video games were on the table. And I explained and showed him every game that I had. Dude, I got heat. And the heat he's seen, he was like, damn, okay, this could make the deal by itself. Just the video games and the consoles, okay. Then the shoes, he wanted the shoes because he's a size 12. Shit, you can't make this shit up. He was a size 12, bro. So he wanted the shoes for himself to add to his collection. He was like, man, are you doing a New Balance? I was like, yeah, because I can't wear them anymore because they got that funny, turn on them a little bit that make my feet do weird shit, Also, he wanted the Funko Pops. Cool with that. There were a few that I told him, you see Mariah Carey back there? That's a album cover. That one my wife bought, and she bought me a few other ones that I said I'm gonna keep. He was okay with that. Comic books. There was only one book I wanted to keep. That was the first edition of Witchblade. Everything else, as far as the X-Men and everything like that, on the table. Small electronics, far as laptops, iPads and things like that, that was on the table. The cologne, he wanted to buy the cologne. That was on the table. The watches. Certain watches wasn't on the table because some of them, don't get me wrong, I bought, but my wife bought a few of them. And, that's off the table, bro. You don't do tacky shit like that. I'm just being honest, bro. So it was a lot of back and forth with things. I got a lot of remote control cars. They were on the table. As far as the helmets and stuff like that, that was on the table. He wanted to buy the hats, but nah. I like my hats, bro. So, the accessories and every damn thing was on the table, man. And, we were just going back and forth. We settled on a number. And I was okay with it. It was a good number. We were all right with it. But the thing was, as time went on, those pieces really started messing with them. I have some pieces in here that I'm not selling whatsoever, and he wanted those pieces. See, like I said, anytime you're doing business with somebody, they usually want the shit that they can't have. When I was doing this deal with these two different people on Facebook Marketplace, right off the bat, I asked them what they wanted. I even, went back and forth with the guy because he felt like he wasn't getting enough, and I could understand that a little bit because he did have a lot of stuff. He had a whole basement full of shit and totes. And I'm just sitting there thinking, clear see-through totes. You can just see what's in it just by looking at it down in the basement. So I'm sitting here thinking to myself, okay, I'm gonna ride with you with this. I don't want to take advantage because that's what it seemed like. So, dude, it felt like I was just taking advantage of this man. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna work with you the first time, work with you the second time. Third time, I was still with you until you started trying to change it on the day of the deal. And I was like, man, I'm done. Because I don't know what you're doing right now. Because you're starting to scare me because I feel like this is some sort of setup now. I'm just being honest, bro. Real talk. That's what happens, man. Sometimes when you're not paying attention, sometimes you don't see certain red flags, bro. I seen the red flags and I was like, wait, hold on. I don't know about that. Then, the deal that I just had, man, it should be called Ghost Book because these people be ghosting you real hard. But I learned that a lot of people just want to talk to you, bro. They want to talk to other collectors and see what they're into, what you buying and, what's your favorite, item and when did you start collecting, man? And he was telling me his backstory, his origin story. He told me all this stuff, bro. And I'm just sitting here. The guy that I was doing the deal with the first time, like I told you, he told me how he got the stuff. He told me he was cleaning out apartment buildings, houses. He was just cleaning out every damn thing. And, they told him, throw the stuff away or you can keep it. We don't care, but we got to have this stuff out of here in the next week. So he told me, man, this is what we going to do. This is what I thought of. At first I was just a collector and, but I have no ties to this stuff, man. He was like, I need a little cash and this would be the way to do it. But with the guy that had all the stuff in the basement, he got offers from other people. But see, I was explaining it to him. I said, when you piece the stuff out, sometimes that leave you left with the undesirable stuff that you can't readily move. It's just like you trying to sell people the sectors from the 80s, man, and, without all the rest of the stuff. People looking at you like, I'm not really interested, bro. You got the Mego figures. People ain't really interested. Not everybody interested in older stuff. And this is the thing that I'm looking at. Not everybody into vintage toys, bro. So, I was explaining to him that, it's your call, how you want to do your stuff. I'm not trying to tell you how to, do this, but I'm saying, man, I'm offering you something really good, bro. And I said, I'm taking everything. I'm coming to get it. We gonna clean the basement out. Whatever's left in there, man, that's on you. We took every damn thing in there. This is what I'm talking about. You get your cash. Either you get your cash at the, police station, Venmo, Zelle, because you can Zelle up to a certain amount. And, I was explaining to him about that, and I said, we could break it down into 2 payments, however you want to do it. But I said, I want to make sure you okay with everything that we doing here. Man, so at the end of the day, your uncle was worried about the seller. Dude, I wasn't just trying to get in here and just, take advantage of nobody. No, that ain't what this is about. Look at my second deal that I was trying to do, man. He had a lot of nice action figures and things like that. He had some Transformers. He had some other stuff too, man. And I'm just sitting here looking at it like, okay, let's see what he talking about. But again, like I told you, instead of wanting to sell, he wanted to talk. He wanted to tell me about where he got each piece at, how he was feeling when he bought it. I'm okay with that, but I need to know where this is going. Are you going down memory lane because you just want to talk to somebody? Are you trying to sell it? Do you really know what you want to do? Because some of these pieces are hard to find again. And this is what I was getting at with him. I said, man, sometimes it's okay to just keep it. There are other alternatives that you can do to get money, bro. There is, shit, this day labor, you can help some of your friends at their job. You can stand in front of some of those gas stations where they come pick people up to work for a day. Bro, there are many things that you can do right now. But, the thing is, let the collection selling be the last, ditch effort, man. Don't make it the first. Well, you got all that stuff. You can just sell that. Don't ever let that be your first thing each time you do it. When I was selling this, you know, it wasn't to put down on a house. I ain't worried about that. My whole thing is, I think a lot of people don't understand. When this was about to be sold, I was gonna do something else with it. Dude, was I gonna start back collecting again? Yes. But I was gonna collect in a different way this time. I wasn't gonna collect the same way. I wanted to do some different stuff. But as I see it, sometimes, man, you just gotta take your time with all this. This, is a situation that I learned from. Just like I've been learning, what I don't like to buy. I've been buying stuff for a minute, and I just had to stop and be like, why do you really need that? So I stopped buying stuff that I don't really want. Sometimes you buy stuff because you just want to buy yourself something one day. You be like, man, I done worked for the last month and ain't bought myself a damn thing. And, people like, it's okay to just pay your bills, man. Yes, it is. But sometimes you need to buy yourself something. It makes you feel better. You get what I mean? If all your money go on bills every damn time, you starting to get mad. And see, that's what I was getting at a little bit. I was getting a little restless with the collection, man. I was looking at it. It was getting stagnant. Even the Maestro cars, bro, I was going to sell those. He wanted the Maestro cars. He wanted the Legos. And there are a couple of pieces in the Lego sets, man, that I cannot sell. And I explained that. And, he was okay with that. Bro, I got Legos in here for real. It's just the whole thing. He wanted the classic G.I. Joe stuff. I'm good with that. I'm good with it all, bro. But I just told you what pieces that I'm not willing to part with, bro. And, that's what's up right there. I gave you a whole list of what I'm not willing to part with. It's not that much. If you look at the grand scheme of things, based on what I have, you'd be like, man, that's just like a tote full of stuff. That's it. But he wasn't saying that. Sometimes people want everything, bro. They want your hats, they want your watches, they want your cologne, shit. I'm like, man, bro, what are we doing? Man, but that was the thing, though, man. People were calling me a hypocrite, because I didn't want to sell my collection, and I'm getting mad at the guy for not wanting to sell his. I wanted to sell my collection. Thing that happened, I didn't change the deal. The guy changed the deal. You can't change the deal. I'm the seller. If I told you a price, that's what it is. Now, if I take something out of it, yeah, we could renegotiate. But I didn't take anything out. I explained to you going in what's actually not for sale. And like I said before, everything was hunky-dory. Everything was okay. But like I said, when people see stuff that they can't have, they want it. And bro, if I told you how hard he was trying to get this stuff, I'm like, damn, bro. He was like, man, come on, we could up the price. I just want these pieces. And I'm like, bro, I can't sell that stuff, bro. It's just real. I got some pictures that he wanted. Dude, it's wild as hell. Got model kits that he want. Bro, but I'm like, nah. Bro, after somebody changed the deal on you, unless you really, really need the money, I don't advise you to do it. When people start changing deals, that means they ain't serious. That means they're playing with you a little bit. And I don't got no time to play with nobody, man. I'm too damn old to be playing with people. I'm a whole grown-ass man. Just like a lot of you are whole grown-ass people, man. This is one of the reasons why I had to leave eBay alone, because people on there get to playing and stuff. You buy something, and all of a sudden, you don't hear from the person for a whole damn week. And they tell you, my mom was in the hospital, my dad was in the hospital, my kids was in the hospital, my wife was in the hospital. I write back, how do I supposed to know that? And you can just imagine how they looking when I actually write that and they see it. Bro, I don't know that. You should let me know, man. Look, there's some things I'm going through. I won't be able to send it to this tab. You know, if you want to void the sale, let me know, and we could do that right now. Dude, we on the up and up. I get it. You know, shit going on, man. I could relate to shit going on. But people don't do that. But to later, fam, thank you for watching. Peace out.